There's an uncanny sense of déjà vu that hits you every time you watch Meghan Markle's public appearances. The outfits, the interviews, the gestures, even the eyeliner. But this isn't nostalgia or coincidence. It's replication. Deliberate, precise, almost obsessive. Meghan didn't just look up to Princess Diana. She dissected her, studied her every move like a playbook. So when she stepped into the royal world, it wasn't to find her footing. It was to execute a plan, recreate the Diana phenomenon, and capture the same global adoration. Here's the catch. When something's staged, people can tell. You can't costume pain and sell it as authenticity. Diana's heartbreak, her defiance, her struggles, they were born from real scars, real silence, and media chaos she never sought. Meghan, meanwhile, seemed to sprint through Diana's entire journey like it was a to-do list. Be shy, cover your mouth, look subdued, sit for the moody emotional interview, leave the royal family, drop a bombshell statement on Instagram without even alerting the Queen. Everything felt staged, as if every move was designed to make the public see her the way they once saw Diana. But there's one big problem with that. The world isn't the same anymore. Diana belonged to another era, before social media, before cancel culture, before constant overexposure. Every photo of her was priceless because there were so few. Every quote landed harder because she rarely spoke. She didn't need to over-explain or spend hours on Netflix telling her story. People filled in the silence with empathy. Meghan, on the other hand, shared too much, too soon, too often. And when you overwhelm the world with your version of events week after week, people stop listening. They start checking the facts. And once the truth begins to fray, the charm unravels right along with it. Harry didn't help matters either. Instead of steadying her, he stepped right into the performance. His bitterness toward the press was genuine. After all, he'd seen it destroy his mother. But rather than learning from that pain, he let it cloud his judgment. Meghan knew exactly how to tap into that vulnerability. I can't stand the press either, just like you. Now he's issuing statements, sparring with headlines that aren't even particularly harsh, and fueling the very narrative she's built, that they're both victims of some massive media conspiracy. But the truth is, most of those headlines were simply reporting facts, and that's exactly why their public support crumbled so fast. Meghan never earned the public's trust. She simply assumed she deserved it. She skipped the slow burn Diana went through, the years of awkward moments, raw vulnerability, and a painful marriage unraveling before the world's eyes, and jumped straight to the title of People's Princess 2.0. But public affection isn't something you can inherit. It doesn't pass through marriage or imitation. Diana wasn't adored because she cried on camera. She was loved because people saw her endure heartbreak with grace, grow through her pain, and only fight back when it truly mattered. Meghan, meanwhile, played the victim card barely 2 years in. Tears on Oprah, tears on Netflix, tears in Africa. She wanted those tears to land the same way Diana's did, but the audience wasn't convinced because vulnerability without truth feels like performance, not pain. And as the contradictions piled up, leaking to the press while condemning it, demanding privacy while filming docuseries, the public began to pull away. When you lay it all out, it's almost startling. Meghan truly believed she could shape her public image the way Diana once did, but Diana wasn't strategizing, she was surviving. Meghan, on the other hand, comes across like someone auditioning for a legacy that was never hers to claim. And this is only the beginning, because here's the real twist. Their grand strategy, or whatever you want to call it, ended up backfiring completely. Instead of being adored, they became resented. Instead of following in Diana's footsteps, they've revealed just how disconnected they are from the very public they were trying to win over. Diana understood something Meghan never quite did: timing. Not just knowing when to speak, but also when not to. Diana didn't transform from a shy teenager into a global icon overnight. It took years of awkward appearances, relentless royal obligations, humiliating tabloid stories, and the slow public collapse of her marriage before she finally found her voice. And when Diana finally used her voice, it meant something. When she spoke, the world paused because she wasn't always speaking. Meghan, on the other hand, never gave mystery a chance to form. She entered the royal story halfway through and tried to take the lead role. It wasn't just the interviews or the speeches. It was the symbolism, the styling, the deliberate choices, all shouting, "Look, I'm the next Diana." Outfits copied down to the pose. Emotional sound bites recycled with eerily similar phrasing. Tragedy treated like a brand strategy. That Oprah interview was meant to be her Martin Bashir moment, except without the raw honesty and with a thick layer of performative eyeliner. And the public caught on. Then came the contradictions. They claimed to crave privacy, then inked a deal with Netflix. They condemned the monarchy for its coldness while cashing in on that very story. They spoke about family pain and then turned it into a media tour. At some point, it stopped feeling like honesty and started feeling like strategy, and not a particularly smart one. Because here's what was really happening behind the scenes. Meghan and Harry were trying to replay the Diana playbook in a world where the rules have completely changed. Diana became iconic because her image wasn't perfectly managed. It was raw, unpredictable, and flawed, and that's exactly why it felt genuine. Meghan's brand, in contrast, came off as carefully engineered. Every outfit, every Instagram caption, every quote refined to look unfiltered. But that level of calculation is the fastest way to lose public trust. For all its flaws, the royal family has mastered the art of saying nothing and letting the silence speak. William and Catherine, for instance, treat oversharing like it's contagious. Their media presence is sparse, deliberate, and rooted in duty. No sob stories, no revenge interviews, no leaks about private drama. That silence built stability and, more importantly, credibility. The press doesn't chase them because there's nothing to chase. No breadcrumbs, no chaos, just composure. And here's the real difference. Diana never had to tell the world she was suffering. People could see it: the distant stares, the forced smiles, the quiet tears. Meghan, on the other hand, kept telling the world she was suffering. And somehow, the more she said it, the less people believed it. Because the emotion didn't feel discovered, it felt delivered. Even her so-called shy phase came across as imitation. The constant hand-over-mouth gestures, the soft-spoken tone in early appearances. It felt rehearsed, like someone who'd watched every clip of Shy die and decided to perform it for the cameras. But it didn't last. That awkward girl act disappeared quickly, replaced by fiery speeches, courtroom defiance, and carefully timed media leaks. The shift wasn't subtle, it was abrupt, like watching someone switch accents mid-sentence. And it revealed something unmistakable. This was never about sharing a story. It was about controlling one. When Meghan tried to step into Diana's shadow, she missed the key truth. Diana's power didn't come from strategy. It came from sincerity. And that sincerity was born out of pain, time, and the kind of silence that lets people draw their own conclusions. Meghan left no silence, only bullet points, sound bites, and Netflix B-roll, and it backfired. The more they spoke, the less people listened. The more they shared, the less people cared. That's the paradox of modern media. Access is easy, but attention is rare. Because when you flood the world with your version of the truth, eventually people stop looking. But there's another layer to all of this, and it's the most unsettling one. It's about manipulation. Because the moment you realize Meghan and Harry weren't just reacting to the media, but using it, everything starts to make sense. From timing baby announcements to overshadow royal events, to releasing bold public statements crafted to spark sympathy, to leaking stories behind the scenes while playing the victims in public, the contradictions form a clear pattern. And that pattern isn't accidental, It's deliberate. A tactic that borrowed Diana's emotional gravity without carrying her emotional scars. A tactic that replicated her heartbreak without earning her humanity. A tactic that ignored one simple truth. You can't fake authenticity. You can imitate pain. You can stage sincerity. But you can't counterfeit trust. And once that trust is gone, it's gone for good. That's why Meghan and Harry now exist in this strange cultural limbo. Famous, yet not beloved. Visible, yet rarely admired. Instead of reading the room and adapting to a new media landscape, they tried to recycle a formula that no longer works. Diana's story unfolded in a time when mystery still mattered, when myth could survive. Back then, one well-timed interview could shake the world. A single photograph could shift public sentiment. There was no Twitter correcting narratives in real time, no YouTubers analyzing every micro-expression, but Meghan and Harry seemed convinced they could drop their truth bombs, walk away, and be applauded indefinitely, as if sympathy was something guaranteed. The reality is, today's media doesn't forgive. It doesn't hand out grace. It demands consistency, and that's exactly what the Sussexes failed to deliver. One moment they're pleading for privacy, the next they're on Netflix sharing private texts. One week they condemn misinformation, the next they're promoting books filled with unverifiable claims. You can't cry, leave us alone, and then invite the world into your living room with a camera crew. Meanwhile, William and Catherine did the opposite. They understood that in today's media landscape, less is power. By offering only what's necessary, they've controlled their image not through noise, but through restraint. And that silence, that refusal to play the game, has become a shield stronger than any PR strategy could ever build. When they do speak, it feels earned, not orchestrated. Then there's the public. And for all its flaws, the public knows how to read the room. They know when they're being sold something. They know when they're being played. And they've seen through the Sussex strategy, not because it was bold, but because it was obvious. Diana never sat down with journalists and declared, "I'm the people's princess." The public gave her that name. She didn't tell us she was suffering. She showed us. Through years of quiet endurance, awkward smiles, and the courage to appear in public even when it hurt to do so. The love she earned came from time, truth, and an emotional gravity that can't be fabricated. Meghan tried to fast-track that same emotional journey, a 2-year PR sprint to the finish line of public adoration. But you don't reach the destination without the journey. What we've witnessed isn't just a failed media strategy, it's a case study in what happens when image becomes performance. A scripted drama where every move is designed to earn applause. But real connection doesn't work that way. It's messy, it's unpredictable, and above all, it's earned. So now the Sussexes occupy a strange space, not quite royal, not quite Hollywood, not activists, not victims, not villains either. Just two people with a microphone and a shrinking audience. Because there's only so many times you can tell the same story before the world stops listening. And that's the real tragedy. They had the world's attention, a global stage, genuine sympathy after their exit, and the chance to create something meaningful, something new. But instead of evolving, they tried to imitate. Instead of being themselves, they tried to become someone else. And in chasing Diana's light, they ended up casting only a shadow.